Hello. Today's episode is with Ben D'Alessio and Joe Garza, both co-hosts of the Reckless Musecast, which is a podcast available on YouTube and Spotify, as well as the Reckless Muse Medium site, which includes articles and pieces about different artists and musicians pursuing their own ideas, recklessly with abandon, pursuing free speech, and their own individualism as artists. We get into a conversation about what it means to be a reckless artist in today's world, how that fits into modern politics and modern society, and where the future of art is going in our hyper-politicized world. But before we get to that, please remember to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to consider supporting my content generally, please visit my Patreon page, where you can sign up for just $3 a month to submit topics or questions for me to discuss on this show. And as an artist and podcaster, I work on a value for value model, which I got from listening to the No Agenda podcast with Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak. And the basic idea of value for value is that if my content provides value to you, I ask that you respond in kind by providing value back to me. The easiest way to do that is probably monetarily through money, a donation on Patreon, or a donation through my Venmo or something like that. But there are other things that provide value as well. For instance, submitting logos for episodes, submitting music for episodes, submitting ideas, like if you sign up for the $3 a month Patreon, submitting topics or questions to talk about. All of these things are ways of providing value that we can exchange back and forth with each other. Welcome to Music in Mind, with Anthony Calkin. All right, well, welcome to the Music in Mind podcast. I am here with the co-hosts of the Reckless Musecast, Ben D'Alessio and Joe Garza. Their podcast is available on YouTube, and is it available on other platforms, or is it Spotify?
Yeah, Spotify. Yeah,
Spotify's
the big one. Yeah.
Nice. And then also, they have a Medium site, also entitled Reckless Muse, with articles and different pieces.
Different rantings. Angry rantings.
Angry rantings. So, yeah, how's it going, guys?
Good, man. Very good.
Very good.
Nice. I like that you brought the guitar. You're ready to go.
yeah. I thought this was just like a 3-hour long jam session. I thought we were.
Yeah, right. Nice.
No, I'll keep it in the background. But every once in a while, I'll answer with a little solo or something. So.
Yeah. But my bandmate or duo mate and I were just on the Reckless Musecast a couple weeks ago when I came out to visit Los Angeles, and Ben also came out to visit Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And we had a rousing conversation about
Brother Nate.
Where is he? Where is he?
Yeah, no one actually ever knows.
He's tending to his chickens in Long Beach.
He is. I bet he is. Well, actually, he was here. He left this morning. So.
Oh, really?
Oh, he was in Austin?
Yeah, we played some shows.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, very cool. Nice.
Yeah. But the Reckless Muse project, it's a pretty interesting project. And Joe, you were telling me a little bit about it last time. But So what is the idea behind Reckless Muse?
Sure. So the Reckless Muse started off as a publication on Medium. I'd started probably about a year and a half ago, and it was intended to kind of like just because Medium tends to be very hyper progressive with a lot of the content that it puts out, and it's funny because like I'm not even like a very political person. Like I feel like in a sane world I'd be a pretty liberal person, but because politics has just become so crazy nowadays, I found myself like a lot of people being very politically homeless.
Right.
So I'm just sort of like, all right, like, at the end of the day, I don't really care what a person's political views are. I just care about, freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And, I started the publication out of this need of like, look, we just need to encourage artists and creators to go out and take risks and push boundaries and experiment and don't worry about offending people.
Yes. Absolutely.
I just kept seeing so many celebrities apologizing for dumb things, and it's like, oh, come on, guys, like let's stop being upset over comedians and musicians because they said something offensive 12 years ago. And for me, a big thing that I've been thinking about in the last few years is just that we as a society need to do a better job of giving artists and creators more freedom to fail and go a little too far.
Right.
And so I was kind of writing these very snarky, sort of subversive articles on Medium, and they started getting some decent amount of traction because they stuck out. Medium's very far left leaning, so they started just standing out. And then Ben reached out to me, and he submitted some great stories, and he was like, "Hey, you want to start a podcast?" So we started chatting, and we had a lot of similar ideas about
love at first sight, the standard 90s romantic comedy.
Did you meet through Medium?
Do you want to start a podcast with me, Joe? Because I'd love to start one with you.
I thought you weren't a musician, Ben.
Hey,
you ruined it. You're gonna have to sing.
I'm a front man or nothing. Like I don't have the skill for it, but I have the energy for it.
You look like a front man.
Yeah, I'm a front man. That's it. Front man or bust. Or a wild card drummer. That's what I would be.
You're a drummer who doesn't show up.
Exactly.
Where the fuck is he? We have a gig.
Just blacked out. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
You're in the wrong band. Oh man!
But,
put your pants back on.
So did you meet through Twitter or through Medium?
It was through Medium. Ben,
no,
little of both. Because I think Ben, the first time I met you, you submitted an article to the Reckless Muse publication.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, and then we started following each other on Twitter, and then you reached out to me on Twitter, and you're like, hey, we're interested in starting a podcast.
There you go. I guess that's what happened.
Well, you're both very entertaining on Twitter. I love scrolling. It's like, oh, that's great. Just stuff that's snarky and bitchy. It's great.
I've really taken on the role of a shit poster for the past couple of years, and it's really become a nice kind of ecosystem for me. Just throw shit out there. I have gone in Twitter jail.
Yeah, I saw that. What happened?
Actually, out of all the shit, I've only gone into Twitter jail twice. Both times when I was in LA. Coincidentally, I don't know why. I didn't think anything. So, do you want to know why I went to Twitter jail? I don't really remember the second time. The first time was. All right, so it was like a guy I follow, so it wasn't like an actual attack, but they were being satirical about like how many jabs to stop the spread or how many doses to stop the spread, and they kept going, and I said, obviously jokingly, kill yourself to stop the spread, which in my defense is scientifically accurate. If everyone killed themselves, the spread would stop. The virus needs hosts.
Well, except for the dogs and dolphins.
Right, yes, of course. But only for humans, the more people that killed themselves, the less the spread. That is scientifically accurate. Now, according to Twitter's rules, you should not tell someone to kill themselves. I get it, fine.
I'm going to clip
drinking.
this and put this on Twitter.
That's fine. Well, now I put it in quotes and I like star out some of the letters and stuff. But the first I was drinking, so it shouldn't count. Second,
it shouldn't count.
It's scientifically accurate.
In terms of service.
Third, it's satire. I wasn't actually telling someone to kill themselves. I was going on with the chain. But yeah, that's the first time I went to Twitter jail. I don't remember. I'm not even joking. I really don't remember the second thing I said. It was like the next day. And I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Joe, do you remember? I don't know. I had Joe. I'm like, Joe, can you tweet everyone? Tell them that I'm in Twitter jail.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember it was twice. I don't remember what the second time was, but I remember it was a Saturday night and we were on Sunset Boulevard. We were at a cool bar and you were pretty drunk. It wasn't so much that you were drunk, but you were sleepy. You were sleepy because it was like 11 o'clock, so it was like 2 a.m. your time.
I was a sleepy boy.
Yeah, and then you're just like, dude, I'm in Twitter jail again. Can you tell everyone?
I remember seeing that one. Yeah.
I don't remember what caused it because it gets deleted, so I can't like go back and check because they delete it. Or no, they're like, if you want to get out of Twitter jail, I was not using that term, you have to delete this. I'm like, well, fucking fine. Like, I'm going to obviously do it because I hate Twitter, but I love it. It's a terrible, terrible place, but I mean.
It is, but that's great. That's great. It's kind of the Reckless Muse thing. Like, it's where degenerates hang out, kind of.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a dirty old club.
We're the bad boys of Twitter.
So where does music fit in to Reckless Muse? Does Reckless Muse focus? It kind of encompasses a lot of different art spaces. It's not just music, right?
Pretty much. So we use the term art pretty loosely.
Right.
So usually when Ben and I are talking about art, we usually just mean like anything creative. So it doesn't just mean fine art or sculpture or painting, but it encompasses those as well. But it can also be, performance art. It could be, stand-up comedy, filmmaking, writing. Pretty much any domain that's creative.
Yeah.
Because I think all of these things, unfortunately, have become very infected by politics.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why I started, the Reckless Musecast, or rather just the Reckless Muse in general, was sort of like, arts and entertainment and pop culture, they should be like this sort of refuge from politics. But now, like whenever you tune in to when you're following your favorite celebrity or your favorite artist, they always have to chime in on what's going on politically, and it's just like, come on, like that's fine. We bicker and we fight over dumb shit, and every 4 years. But like, can we just watch a movie together and have a good time? Can we just listen to a song without worrying about like, oh, this is pushing a conservative agenda or a liberal agenda, or just like,
right?
It's really unfortunate that something that has, in particular, music, because so many songs have great choruses or they have great rhythms where we could all sing together and dance together. It can be a great source of community and bridge building. Now it's just sort of we're seeing music as well kind of becoming a source of division now.
Oh yeah. Did you hear the Megan Thee Stallion vaccine song?
Yeah, it was like an ensemble, right? I've not heard it.
It was Jimmy Fallon and Ariana Grande.
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna consciously submit myself to that, but I could only imagine.
I heard it today, and I was like, "Wow,
that's brutal." I was actually gonna jokingly say after that, I was gonna say like brought to you by Pfizer, and then it's like actually they do make fucking. It's like, who are you with that shit? It's like the people who are listening to that are already on your side. Like no one's gonna hear that and go like, fuck, all right, getting vaccinated now. Convince me, Jimmy Fallon. Like you're just fucking pandering to your base, which is fine. Everyone does it. But when
everybody who listens to Jimmy Fallon has probably had like six
many
vaccines
times.
by now.
They probably get turned away. It's like, sir, you can't get vaccinated again.
We don't have enough.
You're just wearing a big mustache this time. We know it's you. Please, for your own sake, let someone else get the vaccine.
Your blood is so thin from all the all the memory T cells. You can't take any more.
Yeah. So other than Megan Thee Stallion, who are some musicians who you're aware of doing work in line with the Reckless Muse idea?
Oh, that's a good question.
There's this quirky little duo. They're kind of based out of like Long Beach and Austin.
It's somebody else. That would be amazing if there was another one.
And there's also some singer chick.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, she's been on a couple times.
Yeah. No, but seriously, I mean, like for example, just yesterday, Ben and I, not music related specifically, but I'll get back to music. But we had Vito Gesualdi. He's the guy who got some infamy recently for going to the Netflix, Dave Chappelle walkout thing. Yeah. And he got in trouble, he got a lot of shit because he was carrying a sign that said, "We like jokes, we like Dave."
Oh, you talked to that guy.
Yeah, we talked to him.
He was on our show yesterday,
Yeah, it was great. But it was just sort of like this basic thing of like, just saying we like jokes is kind of like a controversial thing nowadays. So I feel like we like Dave Chappelle. He's funny. Like that's a revolutionary. But anyway, getting back to your question about musicians, I just feel like anybody who's just like, look, I'm just trying to make music. I'm not going to comment on what's going on culturally. I just want to make people dance. I want to make people bob their heads. For whatever reason, that's considered like a radical thing these days.
Yep.
So any artist who's out there who just wants to create because their muse is telling them to, good on you. And I think I think history will look kindly upon you for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know any like so much music. Not all of it has to, and it'd be kind of annoying if it was. But like the best music in my opinion, the best music in human history came out of the 60s and 70s in the US and the UK. And a lot of that was political music. It was anti-Vietnam stuff and or whatever it was. This was a tumultuous time in these countries. But now, like, the establishment agrees with all of the social, progressive, liberal ideas. And then when there is conservative music, which is also like not like can also be pandering, and usually it's like country, which I don't really like, or sometimes there's there's like the Let's Go Brandon rap song or something, which like I get some people like it's funny, but I'm not going to listen to that.
Yeah.
But because the people who are going to sign musicians a lot of times are part of the establishment too,
right?
Unless you could tell me maybe there's been more breakaway there, but you can't go and make any sort of, and it's not even like liberal conservative, it's counterculture versus establishment,
right? Exactly.
Right now, the establishment is just agrees with everything that used to be controversial. So now the controversial stuff would be considered, even though it's totally not, would be considered like conservative Republican right wing stuff, which it's just fucking not. It's just not orthodox. It's just not like progressive orthodox.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any music that's like overtly heterodox or something. Like I don't know. I don't know if you guys can, but to me, it's just and I think it is a shame because I do think that's some of the best music, and like actors and everyone else, musicians, they're not just their music anymore. Everyone's online. Everyone's on Twitter and on Facebook or whatever it is. So you can't just like make a song and then people have to like dissect it and feel like, what are reviews? Unless you're like a real activist type. Now you're expected to tweet about something if you have a blue check mark. And if you're not lining up with the orthodoxy, with the establishment, then you're going to get run out of town. Now, I hope more of that's changing. I think it is in some areas, especially obviously podcasting is itself outside of that, which thank God, but so much of still pop culture is LA and New York, and you have to fall in line or else you're going to get blackballed.
Yeah. I mean, I think corporate music in general is sort of the worst of the worst with respect to this, just sort of parroting whatever the mainstream narrative is, which sort of makes sense because of what the music is. And I think there's an ideology that's kind of infected everything, which is that the personal is political. And the fact that every conversation you have with everybody now is a political conversation shows us like the sickness in our society that we cannot escape it. And I was listening with brother Nate, the bass player in my duo. We were listening to some funk music when we were driving around Austin. You know that song, We Got the Funk? Yeah. Gotta have that. And like bands like that would just do 3-hour sets of just trying to make everybody groove as hard as they possibly could. And that is it. That is what their job was to just make the most slamming, like best music they possibly could.
Right.
That was their focus. They were zoned in on that. And I think that now there are kind of heterodox artists. There's like Tom McDonald, and Eric July has his band Backwards and stuff. Yeah. But it's so overtly political that it kind of weakens it. Like, we're making libertarian music in a way sucks.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's especially nowadays, it's very difficult to be political with your art without coming off as like propagandistic.
Right.
And I'm not against the idea of politics being expressed through music or any other creative medium, but I think when it's served up in this very simplistic red meat form, I think that's when it's kind of stops being art and starts turning more into theme music for your political side.
Right.
I think it's one thing if your song has lyrics that question the establishment, or it takes a more gray area view on certain issues or something like that. I think that's cool. I think because real life is messy and it's awkward and it's weird. But when you take like this very simplistic, like a fuck Trump or fuck Nancy Pelosi or whatever, then it's just kind of like, okay, you've kind of, this is dumb now. You're not being interesting, or you're not diving below the surface of what it means to be a person. And now you're just creating a slogan for your side.
I feel like you're weakening what music can be, because music has the ability to express the. How did Leonard Bernstein put it? It's a little bit lofty and woo-woo, but express the unsayable. And so get at those weird emotions that you feel it and you go, yes, and you can't quite put your finger on it. And those kind of deep gray areas that exist in contradiction to each other. Like music and contradiction have a very strong relationship.
Right.
And so I think that if you write a song that just says fuck Trump, you're cheapening what music can do. Versus like a song like Tom Sawyer, Rush, obviously, as I understand it, he's writing about sort of Ayn Randian ideas of individualism and objectivism, but he's doing it. He's bringing in literature. He's using music in this sort of interesting prog rock kind of way. And so you can listen to it with all these different layers. You can delve into the meaning of the words. You can really get into the theory of their rhythms, or you can just listen to it and be like, this is a slamming song.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's what that song's about?
Yeah, his mind is not for rent to any god or government. It's like,
really?
It's subversive,
I remember that song from Rock Band, the video game.
Yeah, right. It's on Rock Band, too.
But I mean, if anything, that's kind of a testament to how great that song is. And I love Rush. I actually got to see them live probably when I was like 15 or 16. It was an awesome show. But I mean, you bring up a good point, is that like, great music, and I think great art in general, has multiple layers. And I think, with a song like Tom Sawyer, somebody who just likes, some pretty good mainstream rock, they can listen to it and be like, yeah, this is a cool song.
Yep.
But for some reason, but for people who love great drum work, they can listen to it and appreciate it. People who love guitar riffs or great melodies, they can appreciate it. And people who are more who are a little more politically oriented, they can listen to it and still get appreciation out of it. So when you have a work that kind of it demonstrates a mastery of form on multiple layers, I think that's a true sign of genius, of like actual genuine creativity.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. When your song is as simplistic as "fuck the Democrats" or "fuck Trump," it's sort of like, okay, you're putting the message out first, and you don't care about the rhythm or the melody or the chorus or the song or the form or anything like that. It's just about the message.
Yep.
And it's like, well, just create a billboard saying that.
It reminds me of like the mid-2000s country songs where it was like, we're gonna go over there, we're gonna kick their ass.
So bad.
Like American flag, truck, beer bottle.
Yeah.
What was that guy's name? Toby Keith.
Toby Keith. Yeah.
Well, the Right is just as guilty as this as well. Like there's that singer lady, Joy Villa, and she has that song "Make America Great Again." It was like, it came out like in 2016 or something like that. But it like when you hear it, you're like, okay, it's like a dumb generic pop R&B song, but but she went to the Grammys and she was wearing a "Make America Great Again" dress.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, come on, like that's so like dumb, that's so overt. Like you don't. You're a poster child for Trump. You're not doing anything interesting.
Yeah, why are you doing somebody else's network or somebody else's advertising?
Exactly.
I mean, at the same time, it's all because it's a business, and there is that. And I think especially with the conservatives, it's like they're so deprived of pop culture because everything that's not just apolitical, which less and less things are apolitical now, is liberal. So like any sort of pop culture that does go their way, they just like suck it up like a sponge because it's like, oh my God, they're like saying what we like. And whether it's, a rock musician, because you can name them. It's like everyone knows the conservative actors and musicians because there's so few that are now. People will say, actually, there's a lot more than you think. They're just not open about it. But the ones that are, like, everyone's like, Ted Nugent, and I have lots of country singers, Bruce Willis.
Yep.
A handful that are kind of openly Republican. Kid Rock, yeah. Is he even right wing, or is he just like
I know he
very
backed Trump.
patriotic?
He
did.
Trump,
but
yeah.
I thought he
likes
did like
flags. That's for sure.
He does like the flags. I like flags. I have a flag, but I'm not right wing. But I also thought he did like Obama's inauguration or something. No,
Probably.
I don't know. That's why I just thought he was a very like pro-America, like neutrally pro-America. I don't know. Maybe not. Who knows? I heard.
I don't really look to him for my cues on politics, so he's not really.
No, I want him to run for president. I hope he runs for president.
I think he did. Maybe I'm wrong about that. It's just like a little thing in my mind that's like, wait, did he? I thought he.
I could see him running.
A few did. A few musicians have.
Donald Trump was our president. Anyone could run for president. Like nothing would surprise me. Donald Trump
what's his name?
President.
Was it Joe Walsh? Who ran for president back in 1980, I think.
He's relatively conservative too, right?
Yeah, but I think back in the day, I think he just ran as like an independent or on a third party thing or something. And he wanted his campaign song to be "Life's Been Good to Me."
Yeah.
He's like, that's gonna be my campaign song.
That's such a goofy song.
I love that song. That's cool.
He lives in Idaho, I think, and he does ham radio, so you can find him on the radio and just like chit chat with him.
Oh, that's cool. He's such a goofball. But yeah, man, politics.
So where does punk fit into this? Because I feel like punk kind of falls into the trap of that fuck Nancy Pelosi, fuck Trump, message first, music last. Yeah. But at the same time, there's this whole idea. Punk kind of is an ideology of
Punk was great, man. Real punk, like in the 70s. Punk was great, and it was like, to me, punk was legit because it wasn't sided. It was anti-establishment, in your face, playing fast, kind of like shock value. And that like ripped clothes, cut, like literally hurting yourself, cutting yourself, stuff like that. Like that was fun. Actually, like, stood for something. It was like an angry rebellion against the yuppie class or whatever. Like I feel like it was a lot more class, especially in. I mean, the UK there was a kind of race element to it somewhat, which isn't great, but not all of them. But
I love that like, the Sex Pistols used to wear swastikas.
Yeah. Oh my God. But then they toured with reggae bands from Jamaica. To defend it was they didn't like, and this is tough. I'm not defending that because I don't think you should wear swastikas unless you actually believe in Nazism. But like it was so just it was to just piss off your parents, piss off the establishment to the point where they would wear swastikas because the Nazis bombed London, bombed the UK, and I wouldn't have done that. I don't really like it, but it stood for something, even if that something was like nihilism.
But isn't that something like "fuck you, mom"? Like "fuck you, mom." I don't have to learn how to play classical guitar. I can just go bah.
Yeah. It's not always the best. I love it though. I do. I love pop punk. I do like pop punk a lot. But I like classic punk, like original punk. Yeah.
But I think the reason why so much early punk was so effective back then is because there was so much more to rebel against. Nowadays, the standard of living is much higher than it was 40, 50 years ago. Life's a lot easier, and it is sort of like, what is there to rebel? I'm not saying there's nothing to rebel against, but it is sort of a weird thing where it's like, well, what are we rebelling against? Like, what's the oppressive force?
I mean, look at the perfect example is Rage Against the Machine. In the 90s, they when conservatism very much controlled the culture. Even if the Democrats were more in power, it was a lot more moderate, even conservative Democrats. Where people forget that Obama didn't even run on gay marriage. I was pro-gay. I was a huge John McCain like I voted for John McCain in high school. I was a big Republican, and then I went hard to the left, and now I'm fucking nowhere. I'm all over the place. But like I was pro gay marriage before Barack Obama was, who's considered the most liberal candidate of all time. Well, not counting like socialists maybe, but like the most liberal Democrat of all time. So like just the culture was so much more culturally conservative, where now, like I keep bringing up the gay marriage issue, but like I think like 75% of Republicans are like, yeah, gay marriage is fine. Like, we don't care. Like a lot of us are gay. Like we always were. We just don't want to say it. Like, but like Rage Against the Machine actually like rebelled against stuff, and now they're like, you have Tom Morello like tweeting for the corporations. Just like, what the fuck happened to you guys?
I know. Yeah.
Like
they become the very machine that they were raging
exactly,
against.
Yes, they were. It was like comply with the machine, and that's
like they were one of my favorites to begin with. I feel like that's what
really?
It is.
I didn't. I thought they stood for something, and I did like that. I liked that music. Even in the 2000s, like System of a Down was very like anti-war. Were my favorite.
I learned every System of a Down album all the way through when I was in high school.
All we listened to in the weight room in like 2005 to 2007 was System of a Down. Like it was all that was played, like Toxicity, Violent Pornography, all those like not bombs over BYOB, like those songs.
Such a good riff.
Yeah, those songs are just like stuck in my high school memory. And now those I listened to. I tried to listen to. Is it Serge? Right? Is he the lead singer, Serge? Yep. On an interview with a Michael Maron podcast, who I don't really listen to anymore, and it's just like so typical fucking neo-lib establishment bullshit. I'm like, what happened to you guys? Like, you guys were like,
they've been sold on corporatism. Like,
it's
I remember
so crazy to me.
Rage Against the Machine was fighting against NAFTA. So they were fighting against Bill Clinton specifically.
Yes, which was good. Like that's good.
Right. And then when Trump tries to pull us out of the TPP and was trying to pull us out of NAFTA, they were like, "No, we can't do that."
Rage Against the Machine
flipping out. Everybody, the entire like left-wing movement was flipping out that corporations won't be able to build factories in southern Mexico, which I thought was the problem in the first place.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna just get into politics instead of like music and politics, no, it's fine. I'm just saying, it's like, the left is completely, except for like legit socialists, and like kind of Bernie bros, which I very much was one, and even some of them aren't anymore. But like the vast majority, they're just completely jettisoned the working class. Like, does not give a shit about the working class at all. They sold out for the suburban class, the counseling class,
elitist bastards.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, their bread and butter now are slowly losing, but still urban whites, suburban whites, and some and minorities. But even that, they're losing more and more. But really, like the suburban, not counselor class. What's the word I'm looking for? Consulting class. Like that white collar, college educated, even masters, grad student educated class, and they've completely abandoned the working class. Shred some gnar.
Is that your thought on that? That's amazing.
I'm shredding an agreement.
Yes, I agree.
When I disagree, I'll just do a big dive bomb. Boom.
Nice.
Like, it's like, nope, I don't agree. But then when I agree, I'm like,
I'm excited about that.
I know it's a funny thing because, and again, not specifically related to music, but kind of tangential to it. I've written several articles on the Reckless Muse, kind of criticizing how political a lot of art, and specifically comedy, has gotten.
Yes.
And people will say, and in fact, I think you and I have actually chatted a little bit about this on Twitter. And so some people will be like, look at comedians of the 60s and 70s, that they were political. And to be fair, I would sometimes be more broad in my critique of politics and comedy than I should have been, because they're right. Yeah, like comedians of the 60s and 70s were political, but I think that they had a better reason to be political. They were fighting against threats to freedom of speech,
and they were going to jail for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Lenny Bruce, which Ben and I talked a lot about. But yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But nowadays it's like, what are we raging against now? Like, where's? And I'm not saying that the West or the U.S. is without flaw, or that there's no oppression, or that there's no corruption. Like, yeah, there's plenty of that. But it's easier and freer living today than it was 50 years ago. There was a lot more to complain about 50 years ago. There's a lot more to push back against. But now, so now, whenever I see a celebrity lecturing white people on their privilege, especially when they're millionaire celebrities lecturing normal people on their privilege, it's just kind of like, oh, come on. Like, I thought you were cool. I thought you were rebellious. And you're telling me that I have it better than other people, even though I'm struggling to pay rent. I don't know what you're doing here.
Was that Seth Rogen reference?
Pretty much. But I mean, there are a lot of celebrities
He's
who like that, though. Oh. But, yeah, man.
It's interesting how if you interact with working class people, how little of this stuff seeps down, though.
Yeah.
Like, if you talk to mechanics, they don't even know about any of this stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
No, it's great. So their view of these political fights is very different. Or like some of the families I teach with, very working class families in like South LA and stuff, they have no thoughts about this, and like their thoughts on the vaccine are just like, fuck that, not happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say.
And it goes as far as that, and they're just like, out, I'm going to work, not thinking about it.
I think it's not definitely like working class, but also just like people who aren't like. There's a lot of people who don't really give a shit because they have other things to worry about.
Yes,
and it is this largely hyper online people, usually. I think both conservatives and liberals and everything in between and outside of that has their presence, but like the vast majority of people aren't on Twitter, and they're not on Reddit or whatever, Tumblr, whatever like forums have these ridiculous rules and norms that are trying to be set up, so that when then a politician who thinks that their base is on Twitter goes, I think a perfect example of this was the Virginia governor who lost, what was his name? Terry McAuliffe, who was like, we're not going to have parents pick what their children learn. And people are like, wait a minute, what? Like, we're paying for the public schools, and we're not going to have a say in what you teach our children. And like, to him, that was probably a very poignant and intelligent point to like make on Twitter that would get lots of likes and retweets. But when you say that to like middle class families, even upper middle class families who maybe both parents are working, are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like what do you? And I think you see that more and more, where people think that like Twitter retweets are gonna get you votes, because a lot of the time it's like that's not even close to how it works, because most people have other shit to worry about than like learning new pronouns or what like the proper term for this group of people is, or what the new who is it even Matt Iglesias, who's like a left-wing guy, I retweeted him recently, he's like, new acronym just dropped, and it was like Middle East Arab America, like some new thing, some AAPI, which that drives those people fucking crazy. A lot of them, or most of them, they're like, what do I as an Indian person and a Korean and a Filipino like have in common? Like this is the most populated part of the entire
acronym
world.
now.
Yeah, that acronym, exactly. That's what we have in common. It's like, no, all you guys, you're all being oppressed. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, my parents came here with nothing. They don't speak English. I worked my ass off and got into Harvard.
No, we need to reduce you to a
it's crazy. We were talking about
little
that
label.
yesterday.
Maybe because we're racist.
It's wild. I mean, Asians just get it from fucking both ends, They're not white, so they don't get those benefits. But so they don't get the benefits of being white, but they don't get the benefits of, I guess, being a minority, even though they totally are. Like they just really get it. I feel bad. It sucks. It's unfair. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
Ben, or Anthony, but Ben, you too. Anthony, I have a question for you, not related to politics at all. Do you have a definition of music
Oh,
like
no.
not a dictionary definition, but I'm curious.
Did we do this on Reckless Muse also?
No, I think I asked you guys what the meaning of life was.
Oh, no.
That's what
Well, whose podcast is this?
I'm curious. Do you guys have like a personal
of
definition?
music? Well,
Yeah.
So my little bit shitty response is that's a bad question.
Yeah, it's terrible question.
I don't care.
And I think music is. I don't know. I don't have a good response. It's what you believe it is. So I think music can be almost literally anything as long as you're hearing it as music.
Right.
Because I think music is a narrative.
Yes.
So sounds are real.
Yes.
And then the narrative is in our mind, we go, oh, that's a tune.
Yeah.
So we organize them in our mind. The same way that a painting isn't really an apple. It's just lines on a paper. And then we go, oh, that's an apple.
Exactly. Yes.
So some people can't. I mean, there's that Oliver Sacks. I think it's called musicophilia, where he talks about weird music disorders. And there's some people who cannot hear music.
Yes.
So they literally just hear sound. So if you're playing a melody on a guitar, they just hear a like plink, 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 and they don't organize them in their brain.
Interesting. Yeah. What about you, Ben? Do you have a definition of music?
Definition of music.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's going to be extremely broad, but like even because obviously it's like not just things with instruments, because you could just have like a cappella singing, right? That's music, and hitting rocks together, whatever. But like even because when you asked Anthony, I was like thinking what my answer would be, and it's like, well, not like prose, but maybe not even poetry, but like for instance Shakespeare writing in like iambic pentameter has like a musical quality to it. You tap your foot to it when,
there's rhythm.
When you read it, and there's rhythm. So I mean, if you're really boiling it down that much, like most written or because like music, you can write music. Some people can like write music. So I don't know. That is a difficult question, but I mean, at its most basic, anything that has like rhythm, pitch, melody, anything like that, right?
So I guess sound. I'll give you a definition, and it's not even my definition. This is the definition I got from.
Did you just want to tell us this, and you made us answer?
Sort of. Well, I because
you should tell it with the guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, the reason I brought it up because it actually ties into another topic that I actually kind of want to chat a bit about.
Oh, cool.
The definition that I use, and again, this is one that my instructor gave me, is actually it kind of ties. It basically sums up what you said, Anthony, which is sound organized in time, which I think is actually a very good definition. I think it's broad, but I like the fact that you use the term organized because it implies that it's intentional. That it's like it can be any sound. It can just be you banging on a desk or pots and pans or you humming or whatever. As long as you do it with intention. If you're just kind of goofing around or whatever, it's like you're just making. It's just cacophony. It's just sound. Right. It's just noises. But if it's like no, there's a very specific and defined beginning and end, and this is what's going to occupy that sonic space.
Right.
And the reason why I kind of brought this up is this is a debate from a while back, but Ben Shapiro was talking about how rap he doesn't consider rap to be music.
That's ridiculous.
And I can't remember exactly.
It's because it doesn't have melody. Because music needs rhythm, pitch, blah, 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 some like list that he has.
Yeah.
I would say
just some list somebody made up.
Exactly.
The bebop artists of the 40s would have a lot of problems with that definition.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's very wrong about that one.
Yeah.
Have you seen his breakdown of wet ass pussy? It was very funny.
That was funny.
That sounds like they need medical attention.
But do you guys think that there should be a sort of a standard definition of music, or even just art for that matter, of like this is art, this is not art?
No.
Ben?
A standard definition of art. No, I guess not. Because we don't want to start. Because when something doesn't, I don't know. Fuck, Joe. What's with these questions?
What do you think, Joe,
for this? Because I start thinking extreme stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'll bring up, like, I remember in my First Amendment class I took in law school, there was a very controversial case where an artist, it's literally called Piss Christ, where he took a crucifix and he dropped it.
Yeah, it's from the late 80s or something. Yeah.
Yeah, around that, maybe 90s. Dropped it in like a tank of his own urine or something, and obviously people were very offended, understandably. But so is that art? Well, yeah, it is. It's not pleasant to probably most people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's still art. But I guess you could push the limits of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually had an idea for a story, but I don't want to give it away before I write it. So I won't do that. I do want to about like kind of pushing the limits of what art is.
Okay.
I don't know. What was the question again? Should there be a definition of art?
Yeah.
Well,
Should there be
by
kind of like
whose
a standard?
authority is what I'm wondering.
So I guess for me, what I'm kind of getting at, and one of the things that kind of brought on this discussion was earlier this year, somebody sold, I think it was in Italy, somebody sold an invisible statue or sculpture for like $18,000 or something like that.
It's just a money laundering scheme.
I know, exactly.
That's all it is.
And so, like in the art world, when you sell like a painting or a sculpture or something, it specifically like where usually for something that's more fragile, it would usually come with instructions where it's like, okay, make sure that it's not. If you put this in your house, don't make sure it's not too close to the sun. Because or else it'll fade. Make sure it has this type of lighting because that's what it's intended. This didn't have those instructions. It was just sort of like, just put it here, anywhere really. And then I think that was one of the things that really got me thinking. Like, okay, come on, like we have to have some kind of basic. And I'm fine with operating with a very broad definition of art, but I think that for me, if I were to operate with some kind of definition of art, it should have at least a couple of basic things. One, it should be done with intention.
Yeah.
And two, art is a discipline, therefore it requires discipline. There's no discipline involved with creating an invisible sculpture and then selling it for $18,000. Like that doesn't. You don't need to practice for that.
What about
other than that? Even that, I mean, like you still need to learn how to play.
I was actually
even
thinking
three
that.
power chords.
What about Pussy Riot?
They know something, right?
Some of them.
What does their music sound like?
Yeah.
Is it bad?
Whatever.
I remember when I remember that was a big thing when I was in London. There was this semester, and there was all these like free Pussy Riot shirts.
Yeah.
I almost bought one. Too expensive. I was like, this is too expensive.
Oh, they're cashing in, huh? That's great.
I don't think Pussy Riot was cashing in. I think the store was.
Yeah, I think they're
I'm sure like very little of that, none of it is going to Pussy Riot and the gulags. Fuck Siberia. Are they out? I hope they're
like
okay.
a collective. It's decentralized too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like a movement.
Oh, that was a band.
It is also.
Oh.
Yeah. But
we don't hear from him anymore.
But the discipline thing is interesting. It brings up a conversation I was listening to. There was a podcast I was listening to, and it was driving me insane. About somebody talking about how labor has intrinsic value. And I think that's like a really dumb idea.
Labor has intrinsic value? What do you mean?
So like if you worked hard for something, you should get more money because of how hard you worked.
Yeah.
And I would say that it has more to do with the outcome. So like if I have to practice for 3 days for a gig and Joe only has to practice for a day for the same outcome, we're going to get paid the same. I can't be like, well, I had to practice 3 days longer than Joe.
Yeah,
nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care.
If I suck at making a chair, someone else takes me a while. Someone else can make it much faster and better.
Should you get paid more? That makes no sense at all.
No, okay.
Also, if labor had intrinsic value, we could all go outside and dig holes and become rich.
Yeah.
Just from
That's true, yeah. Right. Just simply through the act of it, yeah.
Labor influences price because price and value are different. But if you have to take a long time, you're going to have to charge more.
Right.
But
yeah, so I think.
So what's the value of discipline is kind of my question here.
Right. No, fair point. I think getting back to punk, because a big part of the punk aesthetic was like we don't come from any formal background, formal musical background. We're just dudes jamming in a garage. Yeah. That still produces something more than an invisible sculpture. There's still an outcome that you can measure, and also take the shittiest garage punk band on the planet, and they cut an album. It still has a defined beginning and end. They're still saying, okay, this is the beginning of the song and here's the end of the song. But when you have an invisible sculpture, it's like, well, then
433, right? John Cage.
Exactly. I was actually going to bring that up. The John Cage piece. Oh, by the way, have you heard the orchestrated version of that?
It's gorgeous.
It's powerful. It's brilliant. Should we tell the audience what that is?
No. Here's what I like. I was listening to Eric Weinstein on Lex Friedman, and he was saying, "Don't explain things on podcasts." And I kind of agree. Make the audience come to you if they're interested. They will.
Oh, okay, all right.
I like it as an idea.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And make them do the work.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say stuff. You figure it out.
Right. But actually, question though, Ben, do you know this piece?
No, you're talking about.
Okay. So I think we should. All right, Ben, look it up real quick.
I have no idea what you're talking about at all.
You ruined our mystique.
Yeah. So there was a composer, John Cage, who wrote a piece called 4 minutes and 33 seconds, where it was all rests. The whole thing is written as rests.
Okay.
Rests meaning nobody plays.
Right.
It's a solo piano piece where you sit and you don't play for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Now, there are movements. So the first movement is like 1 minute and 50 seconds, and the second movement is like 2 minutes. Yeah. So there's a break where people can cough and he can turn the page.
Yeah, sounds like a huge douchebag.
Well,
yeah.
Here's the thing: when you look at the evolution of his music, it's pretty interesting because his early stuff from like the 30s and 40s was very pretty, very tonal stuff.
Yep.
Then it got weirder and weirder, and there was one work where I saw a documentary of him in college, and it was in like the whole musical work was him and other musicians. And they were carrying around radios, and each radio was playing like a different station or different static piece, and they're just walking around and interacting with the audience, and that was the musical work.
Yep.
Even like so many of us hated that, and I kind of do, but even I was still kind of like, yeah, but he still kind of has like a definitive beginning and end. Like it
does. That's why I was asking, because it does have a beginning and end.
So that still counts as music?
It's sound organized in time.
Well, with radios, it might be other people's music.
I guess.
Exactly, yeah. But that's transformative, though. So I think that still kind of qualifies as some sort of art.
So you could be making music, not music, by doing it.
All I could think about, Joe, you were talking about like what makes music and organization is fucking like. Remember that clip of Yoko Ono just like screaming into the microphone during that show, like.
Oh, is that the one where she's playing with Chuck Berry?
No, is that a museum? I think it was at a museum.
Nice.
No, I thought it was on a late night show, like a talk show. They're like the music.
That's her art. Yeah, that's her art. She screams.
Is that music? So that's music. Yoko Ono screaming on a microphone. She's acting enough fucking attention. It was with Chuck Berry, I think. I'm most positive.
Because he has this look on his face, like, what the?
And John Lennon's just
He's
like
so mad.
Yeah.
He's so fucking pissed off.
The one I saw was her at a gallery surrounded by people. Like they were there to see Yoko Ono scream.
Oh, did you hear? We're gonna hear her scream. I hope she does the high scream. That's my favorite.
One thing I can't,
more scream.
I can't stand Yoko Ono. I think she sucks, and she broke up the Beatles. I don't care what people say. She did, and I don't really like it anyway. Yeah, I don't really like the Beatles that much. I think I like some of their stuff. I respect the hell out of them, but I don't really get it. Anyway, she did have a really cool exhibition, I guess you would call it, where she like sat there and you could walk up to her and like cut some of her clothing off. It was very like avant-garde, but you like walk up and like
that's intense.
Yeah, and you could like cut and like eventually, she'd be naked, but it was interesting. Now I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool. That's interesting. But no, she's not the best singer. I don't think that's music.
You don't think it's
not music? Not getting enough attention from your husband is not music. That's where I draw the line.
I had an improvisation professor in grad school who the first lesson asked me what harmony was.
Oh. What'd you say?
I think I said two sounds that are related in your mind.
Okay.
And he was saying, yeah, essentially, like somebody cracking their knuckle in New York and somebody ringing a bell in Tokyo. If you think of those as being somehow related in a simultaneous way, then that's harmony.
I'm not opposed to that, but would there be some sort of intention behind it, where it's like if you splice those two sounds together and put them simultaneously?
I think it's more like in your own mind kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I guess the big distinction between your definition and my definition is that I'm placing music in the listener's head, and you're placing music a little bit more in the creator's head.
Yes, I suppose so. Yeah. That's interesting. Huh. I like that, and it's funny because as you were saying that, a train passed by my house,
and you were like, "Yeah,
yeah." I can feel that definition, and then when the train passed, I was like, forget it. But this harmony just turned a cappella, and it's like, it's just Yoko Ono screaming. No, but that's interesting. I like that.
But it kind of gets to a thing that I talk about music being magic.
Yeah.
And actually, music existing in a shared space between practitioners and listeners. So if you're playing in a band and you're playing a guitar, and then there's an audience there who's listening to you, the music is kind of the shared experience rather than one person or the other. Maybe. Right. I don't know.
So you have a degree in music, like you have like an educational background in it. Mm-hmm. What are some interesting musical lessons that you leared?
Your
but not
interviewer comes out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dude, this isn't our show. This is his show.
Well,
what's next for Reckless Muse?
All right. Well, Anthony, thanks for coming on the show. And well, I mean, what are some interesting musical lessons that you learned, but not like super technical things, not like what's the coolest progression that you learned? I mean, like more like maybe more like creative lessons, where it's like, okay, like I'm going to carry this, I'm going to apply this to other things, not just counterpoint and harmony, like more like sort of like broad ways of looking at creating.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple big questions. One, I brought up us maybe discussing this, and actually, I don't know if Ben has a few minutes to sit and discuss anything more if you have to run, but
a few more minutes. Yeah, so let's do it.
There's a big issue in classical music school about what to do about Wagner.
Yeah.
Right, because there's the issue of separating the art from the artist. That isn't really a lesson I learned. That's something that people argue on and off.
Wait, why is he controversial? He did not.
Anti-Semitic.
The Nazis liked him a lot.
Yeah.
He was anti-Semitic?
Yeah. I believe he himself as a person was anti-Semitic.
Oh, yeah, like Parsifal is about
man.
the evil Jews and stuff. Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Operas about. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
That's great. And then the other interesting one is, should an artist consider their audience? Like what is the proper relationship between an artist and an audience? So like, should Metallica cut their hair freely, or are they beholden to all their long-haired metal fans for keeping their hair? Or I mean, that's like a silly version of it.
Well, isn't it like a balance between authenticity and being a sellout? Like, isn't that just what? Like, you want to strike a balance? Like, do you want to be a starving artist, or do you want to make money? And if you go too far, if you're too authentic, you're just going to die because you can't afford anything, in medical care, food.
But you're fucking authentic.
But you're authentic, and that's great. And some of the, people forget Picasso had to burn some of his paintings to keep warm in the winter. Like, it's horrible. Or if you're too much of a sellout, I mean, yeah, maybe you'll make. I mean, there are people who try and sell out and they still suck and they don't make money. But, I think the art will suffer. I think a lot of it is garbage, but could be famous and make a lot of money. So, I think striking a balance. Like, I'm not a musician, but I'm a writer. I don't make I don't make a living off of my writing. I sell books, but I couldn't get by on it, so I have to work. Like, then that's, I think, the vast majority of artists is they have to have a day job, and then you pursue your passion. Hopefully, one day, even still, I mean, if I made enough money, my benefits with my job and everything else, and the stability of it, I would still take that.
Right.
But you know, but that it also allows me to be more authentic. I can write what I want to write. I don't have to even go through a publisher because, you know, then I have to change a lot of my work. So really, my books are extremely authentic. It's going to turn off some people, I think. It's not for, I'm not writing paperbacks for wine moms to drink on the beach, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I if my books do get popular, which I would love, if they do, it would because people actually love the plots and stories and the characters, not because I pandered to you know a YA audience or a certain audience.
Right. I freely admit that I am a big hypocrite when it comes to this. Because I go back and forth on this a lot whenever I'm working on either a piece of music or screenwriting or anything. There's this really ridiculous, crazy, reckless part of me that's like, fuck the audience, just go nuts. This is you, man. This is all you. And then there's the other part of me that's going, the audience is not going to buy this. No one will buy it. You're not, like, this isn't going to work. And
well, then it definitely won't work.
Right, exactly, yeah. But I think one of the things that I've been trying to keep in mind, a couple of things. One is kind of maintain the balance of like, okay, how can I express my ideas that are purely me, but do it in a way that's accessible to mainstream audiences?
Yes.
If I'm going to tell a story, and I want it to be original and I want it to be groundbreaking, but I need to make sure that the audience has enough material to work with to be like, okay, I'm going to go with you on this journey. You've given me enough recognizable, accessible bits for me to latch onto this and carry through to the end. Because I think if everything I did was just purely me, there's no regard for the audience whatsoever, almost everything I would put out would be incoherent and ridiculous, and maybe there'd be a cool idea, but it would be hampered by conflicting other ideas. And I think another thing too is to consider the evolution of the artist. So for example, we were talking about John Cage. How his early music was very accessible and very tonal. But as he progressed through the decades, it got weirder and more bizarre. And so when we told Ben, you know, like the ridiculous radio piece where everyone's walking around with radios and you know, it was like, yeah, this guy sounds like a douche. But it's like, yeah, if I was just given that, if I was like, oh, here's the composer, and his music is just people walking around with stereos, I'm like, yeah, this guy's a piece of shit. But if I see that within the context of the evolution of his career, I'd be more willing to accept that and be like, okay, he played by the rules, and now he's spent decades breaking them. I'm more willing to buy this work now.
Sure.
So I that's probably a closer estimation of you know what John Cage was really all about. And I'm not even like a John Cage fan, but I do find him fascinating, and he does have some very interesting ideas on music. And he's got this great quote. It's like, you know, some people are afraid of new ideas. I'm afraid of old ideas.
Right.
So I like the fact that even when he's breaking rules and being ridiculous and weird and absurd, he's doing it with intention.
Yep. Right, well, there's your discipline again, because his practice evolved. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's great. So, should we let Ben go and jam a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, sure.
Unless Ben, you're welcome to jam with us, but I know that
I'd love nothing more than to jam. However, I have nothing on which to jam.
Your Yoko voice. You got your
yes.
My screamo band. I just summoned my 3 inches of blood. That's a deep cut. I don't know how many people are going to know that band, but
also not trying to kick you out at all. I'm just trying to be conscious of your time.
I think you guys.
I'll kick him out. I'll do the difficult. Ben, get out of here.
All right. Thanks for having me, Anthony. I appreciate it, Joe.
Of course.
I'll see you soon.
Ben Gillespie,
all right. Thanks for coming by, Ben.
Yeah.
Fellas, Godspeed.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Now that we don't have Ben, now we can really start talking about music theory and counterpoint and harmony and orchestration.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. We can.
Fuck, I actually did have something related to kind of nerdy that I wanted to bring up with you, but I can't remember what it was. I think it was related to theory or harmony or something. Oh, I remember what it was. Not super related to like harmony or music theory type stuff, but I was asking you like if there were any like particular music like lessons that you learned from like
yes.
Yeah. So I want to get back to that real quick. Was there anything that kind of like where it kind of stopped being academic and started being like, okay, this is going to inform how I create?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of my lessons in school informed how I created in a very academic way. So I think I developed a very radical idea of harmony in undergrad that I don't bring into Sap and Claw too much, partially because of this audience problem.
Right.
I do a little bit. I feel like most of my tunes are not really in a key. They're kind of pan-diatonic.
Okay, interesting.
This is something that I worked a lot with Nate on, because I think he's much more used to the more traditional harmony and chord progressions and playing over changes.
Right.
No. We're in like C everything right now. So
okay.
C minor works, C major. Like we can, as long as we're revolving around C, we're good.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So I like developing that kind of sound world. So I guess the lesson was my composition professor in undergrad, who recently died, which was very sad to me because he was an important mentor. But he gave this lesson where he said, I like to think of myself as a pitch. And so I look up and I look down. And so if I'm the third of a major chord, if I look up, there's less distance than if I look down by a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he was teaching us about the power of the diatonic scale, a major or a minor scale.
Yeah.
Because if you're a pitch, your landscape looking up versus looking down is different at every single position.
Interesting.
And that's why ear training with the major scale is so easy.
Right.
It's very easy to hear what note you're on in a major scale.
Yeah.
Versus like a whole tone scale or an octatonic scale where it's symmetrical. So it looks the same going up as going down. So you get lost immediately.
Right.
Because there's no frame of reference. And then you can take that to, you can build. So what I started to do is building diatonic series using non-traditional scale collections of notes.
Yeah.
So I'd use like an 11-tone scale, but I'd use it diatonically, thinking of that looking up and down as a pitch. So I guess
interesting.
Thinking of myself as a pitch.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I like that.
What about you?
A couple of things leap out at me. One, for some reason, I started taking violin lessons when I was in college.
Great.
Which is violin is one of my favorite instruments, and unfortunately, it takes years of sounding like a dying cat before you can produce, a pleasing tone. It's not something that you just kind of, it's not guitar or piano where you just kind of, okay, cool, here's a chord, okay,
Button
cool.
pushing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I was being taught by a grumpy instructor, and I was sold on taking this starting with this instructor because he's great with kids. So I thought, okay, yeah, he'll be gentle with me. That's not how it really works. So the thing about violin is when you're first playing, when you're first putting the bow to the string. You sound like shit because you haven't developed like the fine motor skills of like pressure and speed and all these things. And he kept telling me, he's like, play loud. If I can hear what you're playing, I can diagnose, what the problem is, whether it's pressure on the bow or the speed or the angle or whatever. And he goes, and he goes, this is why I hate teaching adults and why I like teaching kids, because kids are shameless. If I tell a kid, play loud, they'll play loud because they have no frame of reference of what a good violin sounds like. Adults have an understanding of what exactly. So when they start playing a note and it sounds terrible, they play quietly, and it makes it harder for me to tell them how to do it. And it goes, just play loudly. Don't worry about impressing me. Like it's gonna. It goes. It takes years for somebody to learn how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And do it with a very clean tone. Yeah. So it's like don't worry about producing a clean tone right off the bat. So that's informed my approach to music as well as just general creativity.
That's great.
Is just go for broke. Find what your limits are, because Because if your first instinct, and I think this is something that a lot of creative people have, if your first instinct is to pump the brakes, that will always be your limit. It's like, okay, I'm never going to go past this point. It's like, no, but probably your limit is probably much farther. Yep. Find it, and then you can see that, okay, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'm bad at, and the things I'm bad at, I can work on that. That's where I should direct my practice towards. So that's informed a lot of my creative thinking. The other thing is when I was taking composition lessons in college, I was working on a piece. I think it was a duet for guitar and vocals, and it was a poem from H.P. Lovecraft because I'm really into horror. So I was never really into vocal pieces, but I was like, okay, if I'm going to turn something into a vocal piece, I at least want it to be a poem from H.P. Lovecraft. I want it to be something spooky. And so I was setting this poem to music for classical guitar, and I was really struggling with it. And so each week, I'd write a few measures of music, and she'd give me some feedback on it, whatever. And for a while, I started having a lot of trouble with it. And then my instructor says, just give me ideas. I don't care if they're bad ideas, but just give me a bunch of ideas. Because even if most of them are bad, maybe there's one or two that are good that have a lot of potential to be developed. But if you're only giving me a few ideas each week, like this is going to take a long time, and I can't properly gauge what your skills are and what your weaknesses are. And that's another thing that's informed my creative thinking of just stop being critical, just create.
Yep.
Even if only one of those ideas is good, it's still better than coming up with a handful of acceptable ideas, but maybe they're very bland and generic ideas.
Yeah. I think this is really important, and it gets at something I think about a lot too, and I tell my students is you have to let yourself be bad,
right, and
not fight that too much.
Yes,
you're gonna, like when they're learning bar chords or something, learning an F. Yeah, I want you just to play songs with Fs in them, and it's not going to sound perfect. And I want you to play every single song you can find with an F in it, and let it sound like shit for 6 months.
Yeah.
You need to work out your hand. Your hand needs to get stronger. And if every time you hide, you're like, oh no, I don't like songs with F. You're never gonna get there.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to do it, and you also need momentum. So like what you're talking about with composing, you need to be moving to pick a direction or change direction.
Right.
If you're stationary, you haven't even started the process. So it's similar with writing an essay. I every now and then write essays, and I have to
come right from the Reckless Muse.
Yeah, I'd love to, but if you what I find is I usually actually write a full essay and throw it away and write a second essay.
Yeah,
and that is the essay,
right? Because
I need to be in motion and having my ideas moving, at least for a while, because I'm not practiced enough at writing yet. So every time I do it, I have to get the gears moving again.
Right.
And then it becomes fluent, but you need to be moving.
Yes.
It's like you need to be going fast enough to fly a plane. It's the same thing.
Yes, exactly. And I think also when it comes to composing, when you're coming up with a lot of musical ideas, even if most of them are bad, one thing that it does encourage you to practice is taste. Because say you're trying to come up with a melody for a progression or whatever, and you come up with 20 potential melodies and 18 of them are bad. Yep. But you still have to put in the work to be like, that's bad. I don't like that. That sounds like shit. Wait, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's you making a creative decision, which is something that's what art is about. It's about a series of decisions that add up to some kind of whole. Some kind of larger thing. But getting back to what my composition instructor was getting at, which is she gave me something interesting where it was sort of like thinking of decisions as gestures. And I always like that term in terms of music. It's a musical gesture. It's a creative gesture. When you have a melody and maybe it's kind of staying in this part of the octave, but then it shoots up. That's a creative gesture. Or maybe it shoots down. Or maybe it's more fluid shape, or maybe it's more angular or something like that. But thinking in terms of that. it's interesting as a creative person, you know, when you're working in other things, like even though I learned those lessons when I was studying music, they've also informed my interest in film and screenwriting and storytelling as well. So I think it kind of gets into, there's this great book that I'm reading. I've actually read it multiple times, but it's called Zen Guitar by Philip Toshio Sudo.
Oh.
It's such a great book. I'm not even like a big, like really into Buddhism or anything like that, but it's not too into the kumbaya stuff. It's really more about mentality of just sort of like just play a single note and just play as well as you can, sort of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I forgot why I brought that up, because there was a lesson in there and I can't remember what the lesson was. But anyway, it's just this idea of like, just create.
Yes.
You'll get better, but you have to.
You will.
Yeah, exactly. Like I used to have this sign hanging up in my room for the longest time. It said the first step is to suck. Like,
yep. Yes, it is. It is.
Exactly.
And you might suck for a long time.
Exactly. It might be the next 20 steps, but it's just like, just get over the fact. And the other thing too is that like no one's gonna listen to or read or look at your fumbles if you don't let them. It's like, okay, like I wrote a shitty piece of music, but don't worry, no one else has to see that. I have this thing of like, I think one of the hardest parts of art. One of the hardest things is to make it look easy, to make it look like, oh, okay, that note was supposed to be there. That melody was supposed to be there. It's like I went through 100 different iterations in order to come up with that right one.
Yep. No, it's true.
No.
Yeah. So do you want to play something?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Let me grab my banjo. All right, cool.
All right.
How about see something?
Okay, we'll do something in C.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Real quick, just to make sure, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Too loud, too quiet?
You can turn up a little bit even if you want. That's great.
All right.
Sweet.
All right.
Nice.
That was cool, man.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It reminds me. Did you ever learn that piece of music? I think it was just called In C.
Yes. Yep.
Who's that by again?
Terry Riley.
Yes, you're right. Did you ever play that?
Yeah, I've played it a couple times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah,
I guess that was kind of like a version of NC in a sense. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that. I remember a friend of mine actually got in trouble when we were playing that. The whole class. It was like, hey, bring your instrument, and whatever it is, we'll start. And so we had kind of like a whole orchestra basically. And then it went on for like 45 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And then as it started to wind down, and it's about to end, my friend who was at the piano, he just goes, like he just went right back to the beginning. And I guess the professor got mad at him. She called him out. It's like, no, you've ruined the whole integrity of that piece. And it's sort of like, oh, come on. Like,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's
it's just like, it's fun. Like, I mean, like, it's like he was playing a Mozart symphony, and then he just kind of, and then at the end of it, he was like dun 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 dun, and it's just like, like I can see how that would ruin it, but it was sort of like, it's kind of an improvisational piece.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I don't even understand why that would ruin it. I mean, the idea of getting to the end and then restarting it and doing the whole thing again seems very in line with the piece, actually, like doing a 3-hour version of the piece.
Right, exactly, and theoretically, you could have a musician performing where it's like the whole 3 hours they're not playing anything, like they're just playing rests, and then like their first foray into the piece is but yeah, it was like, all right, it was fun, I'm glad we did it, but we'll probably never play that piece again.
Do you know Vexations?
I don't think so, no.
The Scriabin?
Okay.
Or no, it's not Scriabin. What am I talking? It's Eric Satie, of course. It's Satie.
Okay.
But it's 8 measures, but it's supposed to be repeated like 400 and something times.
Huh.
So like people get into a practice of playing it for like 8 hours straight, kind of a thing.
Right. So basically, it turns into like a Fish concert.
Yeah, right. But it's these it's this really like weird, ambiguous chord progression. But yeah, I think the way they did it at UW-Madison was they were doing it on piano, and they had people swap out every 2 hours.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's wild, man. I love early instances of musical innovation that often don't get, much recognition. So, for example, one of the earliest examples, or at least one of the earliest recorded examples of polytonality was actually from Mozart. He composed it was intended to be a joke. It was called a musical joke.
Oh, yes. I know what you're talking. The string quartet.
Yeah. And it was intended, it was written intentionally badly because he was making fun of bad composers. Yeah. And the last 2 chords of the final movement, everyone's just playing a different note. Yeah. Like, this is actually like the first recorded instance of polytonality.
Yeah. Well, he has his chromatic quartet too. That's like
Mozart.
Yeah, like very like almost 12 tone at parts. Yeah. He was wild. He went for it.
Especially in his later years. Yeah, he got pretty experimental. And then he also had, I think it was the Kleine Gigue in G major. Even though it's in G major, it's really chromatic, and to me, it has a sort of like Hunting Wabbits, like Looney Tunes vibe.
Oh,
it's very
cool. I mean, those are crazy chromatic. Those are like
it's so good. And then he also had like Beethoven's, what was it like the Grosse Fuga?
Yes.
Which is it's a very ugly, hard piece to listen to. I mean, I enjoy it, but it's like listening to German for the first time. It's just very brutal, chromatic piece. But man, music's fun.
Music's great. Yeah. So what's coming up for Reckless Muse? You got the podcast.
Yeah.
You got the Medium, the Medium channel.
Yeah, definitely. Which by the way, if you have any essays you want to send our way, we'd love to publish them. Anything related to the arts or creativity.
Okay, cool. So, yeah.
But nothing too big. We do have some pretty cool guests lined up for the show.
Nice.
Some people who are kind of a little above our pay grade. So
that's good. That's how you get it. You just got to
yeah.
go for it.
Yeah. So we definitely have some cool guests lined up, and it is something that we do want to kind of start taking more seriously. So even though the publication, even though it's not big in any means, we did cross the 200 subscriber
Nice.
milestone
Congratulations.
in just a year and a half. Thank you. And we're putting in very little work, so I'm glad it's resonating with a growing audience. But I mean, it's just interesting because there is definitely a hunger for people to be like, look, we don't have to be political. Like, art can just be art. It can be fun and weird and experimental and edgy and offensive, and that's fine. That's what art should be about. It's not hurting anyone. It's like I think the fact that Reckless Muse is so dynamic, like it means that we can experiment, try new things.
Yeah.
Without it, straying too much from the brand, because there's barely a brand. We try things and see what works. So
yeah, that's very cool. Well, yeah. I really like the idea, and thanks so much for coming on today, Joe. You can find Joe and Ben's podcast on YouTube and Spotify, Reckless Musecast, and you can find their Medium or Joe's Medium site, Reckless Muse, where there's articles and all sorts of fun goodies all over it. And I'll link to everything.
Yeah.
Cool. So thanks so much, Joe. Thanks for coming on, and thanks to Ben, even though he had to head out.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, man. We had a blast, and let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, thanks. All right, thanks for listening or watching. Please remember to check out Reckless Muse, check out Joe Garza and Ben D'Alessio. Their podcast is awesome, and they have a lot of really, really cool articles on the Reckless Muse Medium site. Also, remember to leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. And if you would like to consider supporting my content generally, please visit my Patreon page. Thanks. Bye.